everyone. Happy Friday. Brigadier General Matt Higer with Chief D. Ward-Swanigan. We are giving you a view outside the virtual windows here at the studios of Public Affairs on Edwards Air Force Base. And I will tell you, if that does not get you in the December Christmas holiday spirit, I'm not sure what will. But I only wish that was outside right now, just as I wish this were the fire behind us inside also. But happy holidays, everybody. This is our last broadcast of calendar year 2021 on the Friday Town Hall segments. As you're well aware of, so a week from today, everybody will be prepped for Santa's arrival on the 24th. We'll all be watching our NORAD radar screens. And then the weather folks and the elves at the North Pole, it'll be their game day. A week after that, everybody will be in the middle of college football overdose for bowl games, getting ready to break in the new year and bid adieu to 2021 on Friday the 31st of December. And then we will be back with you at our regularly scheduled time slot on Friday, the Math in Public 3, 4, 5, 6, 7th of January 2022. So I hope, I'm going to say it again towards the end of the broadcast, but hope you guys have great plans for the holidays. Get the R&R that you need, and spend all the time you can with your family and friends and enjoy the season. All right. Thanks for being here. Chief, any opening remarks you want to pitch at the crowd while we call up the banner there and people start texting in their questions and comments?
Sir, like you kind of alluded to, the R&R piece, and just hopefully folks have some plans to be able to connect with folks, friends, family, coworkers, whatever it is, and to just be able to enjoy the rest of the year, if you will. So. All
right. The number, as always, area code 707-412-8922. Sergeant Nielsen and Miss Becca Schweitzer have cleared Chief solo this round. So she's going to be answering questions and doing the work on the phone simultaneously. We've given them some time off to get prepared for their 2 weeks of downtime or pseudo downtime this Friday. So burn up her phone, gentlemen and ladies. That'll be great. While we're waiting to answer some questions or take some comments, there are a couple things that I want to make sure I push out to you in this broadcast. There are some big changes, or I'll say updates or clarifications that we've received over the last week to 10 days. One of those changes that we've received is for active duty airmen, and I think the same is going to apply to reserve and guardsmen, although those will not be in our chain of command, so you'll need to talk to your chain of command for specifics there. But for active duty airmen, the Secretary of the Air Force has rolled out a policy that is that addresses you've applied for a medical exemption for the vaccination requirement, or you've applied for a religious accommodation for the vaccination requirement, and that accommodation or exemption is not approved. Now what? Well, we have guidance from Secretary Kendall that answers that question, now what? So as we've known for quite a while now, there is an appellate authority to the decision authority, and for AFMC airmen, that is General Bunch, the AFMC commander. The decision authority for all of these religious accommodations and medical exemption approvals are with the MAJCOM commanders, and General Bunch has not delegated them at all. He's handling them all personally. We are starting to get, across the MAJCOM, we're starting to get his decisions on specific cases. We don't yet have an Edwards Air Force Base assigned airman or guardian through the decision process yet, but they are happening across the MAJCOM. That person or those people, if they're not satisfied with the answer there from General Bunch, they have an appellate authority to the Air Force Surgeon General. And that is the final appellate authority for active duty airman cases. If the airman that receives a decision from General Bunch that is not approved or not granted, I don't know what the exact phrasing is, and decides not to appeal, or the person that decides to appeal and they uphold that not approved, in either of those cases, that airman has 5 days to decide what to do. And there are choices available to that person. And one of them is receive a vaccination. Another one, and there are multiples, but another one is to then apply for separation under basically the same rule set that was available to airmen in a really small window in late October into November of this year. So basically, they're carrying forward that window of opportunity for those airmen that applied for a religious accommodation or medical exemption waiver after they get the answer back if it's not approved. I think that's a that's a logical extrapolation, makes a lot of sense to me, and is something that I think we can definitively execute as we go forward. And so that information is out and on the street. If you want to see that, you can certainly look it up. But that is an update. That's I'll say a clarifying update that I am glad we have and can deliver. As or when you have questions on that, you're welcome to talk to your commander, your director, ask in or text in your questions, or look it up at edwards.af.mil/coronavirus, and a lot of those policy links will be there as well. So that's one update that's happened in the last week to 10 days. Another update that happened on the coronavirus topic, and I don't know, Chief, if you got this one yet, but folks, it's here. It's on base. What's he talking about? Well, its symbol is a big O, and its name is Omicron, or however you want to pronounce it. The bottom line is that the most recent highly infectious variant of coronavirus has been detected in a case on Edwards Air Force Base. When they said that to me as I was walking out the door to make the town hall, I said, this is my shocked face, because I knew it was not a question of if, it was just a question of when. And it doesn't actually surprise me given our proximity to Los Angeles and a couple of other places like Southern Nevada and the Bay Area, that we would be one of the first communities to see that pop. What does that mean from a force posture or a base posture change or perspective? It doesn't mean any changes at all. We're still going to use our smarts. We're still going to rely on all the non-pharmaceutical interventions that have and will continue to prove valuable. And then it means that if you are eligible for a booster, or if you have not yet finished your fully vaccinated status, I encourage you to do so. And that will help in all cases. So it's here. Any more disclosure beyond that is not releasable at my level, but I am certainly willing, as I've just done, to disclose that it is on the base. So those are two big COVID updates. There's a third one, which I'll say for a little bit later. But Chief, anything you want to push to the team before we get to questions or comments?
I think that's pretty much the summary of the week for myself as well. I would say anything else would be up for later.
Okay. If we have any questions, Runyon, we'll take them. Questions or comments, we'll take them now. And if not, then I'll hit my third topic while we're letting for everybody's texting juices or talking juices to get lit.
So far, what we received is love the background.
I love the background too, right?
Shout out to PA.
Yeah, show me the outside. Show me the outside window again. Oh, they can do it. Oh, man, that makes me so. So I'm a kid that grew up in Idaho, and my backyard was not a pine forest like that, but I love me some fresh first snowfall of the year. And then I spent a tour at Eielson in Alaska, and boy, it's just glorious seeing the flock trees and catching snowflakes on your tongue, literally. I love it. I absolutely love it. And on the 24th, the myth has it, if it snows, you roll that up into a snowman and you can name him Frosty. Right? The magical first Christmas snow story with Frosty, which is another geekery thing that I'd be happy to talk about, but I don't want to drag you down into Christmas cartoons, but those are some of my favorites of all year. So yeah, love the background too. All right, so let me bridge to something else that is an announcement, kind of a dovetailed announcement with a mission partner that we have on the installation. So Chief and I have a landlord in our neighborhood here on base, like many of you do, and certainly many more of you have airmen that you work with, that you supervise, or you lead that live on the installation. And we all have the same landlord. And as of last week, that landlord, actually as of this week, that landlord is no longer Corvius. Corvius, the company, has been purchased by another company, and they have rebranded into I think it's an LLC, don't quote me on that, but they've rebranded into the company known as Mayroad. So that's that's the background or the name behind or on many of the signs that you see if you look around the neighborhoods on base, and that is in the email that some of us received or our families received the last couple days. So it's a company name change. The interesting thing about that is one company has sold to another company, but they're performing the exact same contract. So from a user experience or from a customer service perspective, yes, the names are going to change, but even many of the faces locally will be the same, and they have the same contractual obligations to all of us, to the Air Force, through AFCEC, and to us, but also the same contractual obligations via the lease that we have all signed as tenants of the company formerly known as Corvius, now known as Mayroad. So if that caught you off guard, we can feed that back. But the reality of it is that nothing should change other than the name on what you'll see on their building, well, not their building, but their customer service desks, on their name tags, on their emails, and things like that. But everything else should remain the same. There was an interesting FAQ that was attached to that email that was basically just a double down on a lot of the Air Force housing policies that are both in contract but also Air Force level policies. And one of them at the end of that I found interesting. It asked about what determines, under the new company rules, what determines what size house you get. And the Mayroad answer was, well, the size of your family, of course. And when I read that, I said, yeah. So that's a factor, right? I mean, that's a real factor, but it is still primarily determined by your grade. And then within grade, there's a consideration for how large your family is. Because candidly, if it was determined by how large your family was, our street composition would look a lot different up the hill. And the largest family on the installation would actually have my next door neighbor's house, right? Sure. But last time I checked, that is reserved for an 08 and will remain so. So don't read too much into that last question that was on that FAQ that they sent out. Basically, what you should take out of that entire frequently asked questions list that they sent is that expect no change. And this is an opportunity for us to welcome a new mission partner. There'll be a new corporate level leadership and management team. And if there are things that we thought Corvius did good, then we'll reemphasize that to them. And by we, I mean all of us. And if there are things that we thought Corvius had opportunities for improvement on, then maybe the new company will be able to figure out a way to get to right or get to good or get to yes, where Corvius was unable to get there. Maybe not due to lack of intent, but just something structurally will be different that will allow that to happen. So Mayroad is the company, and you'll see it around. On a little bit comical note, the email that they sent out said, hey, we're proud to announce that Mayroad has taken over all the operations at Edwards Air Force Base. And I went, well, that's interesting, because last time I checked, we still produce sorties and we still fix jets and we still teach test professionals at TPS and we still do all that. So don't read more into that than what they intended. By operations, they meant privatized housing operations at Edwards Air Force Base, and they'll either send through a correction to that or they'll send out additional messaging. But the military housing officer and I, Melody Couch, chatted about that this morning, and she's working with Mayroad to make sure that they are a little bit more precise in their comms going forward. And so an example of the partnership that is available to us, and we're going to capitalize on as we use our existing relationship with the new company providing housing here at Edwards Air Force Base. So with that, Chief, is that enough time for anybody else to chime in, or?
Not at the moment, but I'm glad that you brought up the fact that it's based on your grade. As the BAH rates for 22 have been posted, and a lot of people had questions about, why did certain grades only get this much versus some of the other grades who got a lot more. And that is definitely based on the grade and the allotted bedroom size or capacity that grade is authorized. And so it's not going to be the same for a junior enlisted as it would be for a captain or a company grade officer. So to keep that in mind is important in this particular topic. So I'm glad that you touched on that a little bit.
Yes. It's so military family housing, and that's in a capital MFH, is something that goes back long before privatized housing, and the equivalence of what you would be authorized off base is really what we're boiling down to here. Now, what actually families choose to do, or airmen in general, even if they don't have families, choose to do, that's still up to you. And there are a lot of choices available in some markets that aren't available in others. For example, if you're an airman or guardian stationed in Manhattan or downtown San Francisco or in the heart of Los Angeles, and granted those are small numbers, but they're not zero, they really don't have a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 2-car garage option in those cities. Not even in my BAH would you have those options in those cities without some just crazy commute times to rent them. And so in those environments, it's some type of a condo or apartment. But in rural communities where there aren't any real I'll say big condos, but there are some apartments that may be just the opposite. And so looking at what the expectation is based on your grade or your projected grade is a really important understanding on how they determine what the BAH is in the local area. Now, our role as the installation in feeding into the process that results in the BAH updates and changes is we ensure that the organization that does the cranking of the numbers understands how far away is the local commute area, what's in or what's inside or outside that bubble. That's an important determination and an important characteristic on how do we include communities or not. And then within that, I'll say maximum commuting range, we say, well, this neighborhood, this zip code, not really a place that we would expect an airman and or their family to live. And so we rule places out as well. And that tailoring is really the Military Housing Office's value add to the BAH calculation and recalculation. It is a little bit of an art, but there's certainly a lot of science and an algorithm behind that backs it up. And full disclosure, they're not saying anything new to anybody that's been around the military for a couple assignments. BAH rates always lag. The best that we can do is make sure we get valid data and highlight where it needs to be updated faster than the normal update rate. I'll say the good news here is that everybody's going to see a BAH increase at the first of the month. The bad news is that Edwards Air Force Base did not qualify for reasons that Chief and I still don't have full answers to for the temporary BAH increase that was available to some other installations starting October 1st of 2021. Now, everybody's being rebaselined as of January 1st of 2022. So that window is now historical fact. But that's our value add and our contribution to the program as we advocate and be demanding customers of the higher headquarters machine that determines BH, changes in BH rates. Another thing that some folks don't consider, I recognize that another thing that is a consideration in BAH, I have heard from a few folks, it's not the majority, but from a few, that how can you possibly buy a house at that BAH rate? I can't afford the PITI, I can't afford my house payment. And the response back is that BAH rates are assuming that you rent. There's never an assumption that you are going to purchase a house when calculating BAH rates. Generally speaking, the math says that house prices and rents are closely coupled, but there are often some divergence in house prices and rents that the prevailing area can demand that drives some of that difference.
That's a good point.
So something else to consider when you look at what that covers and what it doesn't. The having both owned at some locations and rented at others, I can tell you there are certain advantages in owning your house. If you want to punch a hole in the wall, punch a hole in the wall. Right? Your landlord's not going to care. But the good news is that maybe you're building equity in that house. The bad news is that all the repairs are yours, and you have to worry about how to get out of that house on the backside. Which in our career, we have had a generation in the housing meltdown where there were a lot of active duty families that were trapped and had some significant consequences. So that's a consideration on the downside. The upside is you get equity opportunities, and if you think you're going to be at a base recurring times, that's a legitimate consideration. Many test professionals, as they arrive at test pilot school, purchase home in the local area, and then they stay in the local market for a large portion of their career. The flip side of that, if you rent, especially if you rent on base, you don't have to worry about maintenance. You know what your rent's going to be because it's attached to your BAH and other things like that. And so those are some bonuses there. The drawbacks are you're not building any equity, but the good news is you don't have to worry about getting shackled with the sale of a house or trying to find somebody to live in it that is going to take care of it for you. Sure. So different considerations and discussions there. So I'm not surprised that a few folks are off work on this Friday before the traditional holiday period, but if there's anything else to run in, we'll certainly address it. If not, we can talk to a couple other topics.
We have one question.
I'll take it.
Sir, with the new testing ConOps being implemented, can we expect someone at the door of each facility or building checking personnel?
So whoever you are, I owe you a, treat of your choice next time we're together at the club, because that's exactly what I wanted to talk about next. So thank you for being the transition and the straight person. So You are alluding to the fact that for those in our community that are not fully vaccinated or have declined to provide proof of full vaccination, and there are forms that you can use to declare that depending on what your status is, there's a requirement that you show a negative test. And I hate that word because a COVID test is either detected or not detected. There's no such thing as negative COVID test, but that's the phrase in the guidance. So you have to have a not detected COVID test if you work there within the previous week to enter the facility or enter facilities on a Department of Defense installation. If you are a visitor for an official event, so an official event visitors, I got two examples. One is when we invite in, say, CivMil team or honorary commanders, or maybe friends and family that attend an ALS graduation. Those would be visitors for an official function. Another example is that when I host another example would be when I host or we host community partners. So think mayors, city managers, county commissioners, those kinds of folks as well. Those would be guests attending an official meeting or for an official purpose. Those guests have a choice. They can either show proof of vaccination, in which no more requirement exists, or if they can't show proof of vaccination, then at that point we are also obligated for them to have a not detected COVID test within the previous 72 hours. And in both of those scenarios, it makes a lot of sense to me for us to have a capability to do that testing on the installation. And so there's no real requirement or specific guidance in the DoD and Department of the Air Force mandate on who has to do that testing. It's just that it has to be done before you enter the facility or facilities on a DoD installation. So we decided to do a single point screening test facility, SPSTF. And so that is the base theater is the physical location. The hours will be published on their website. I also asked on the app, on the one app to rule them all, there'll be a hotspot or a pin that you can highlight there, and it'll have contact information and the hours there as well. They will have, because it's screening testing for COVID, they will have over-the-counter kits available there as you arrive. There'll be a screening series of questions that you need to go through before you self-administer the test. And then after the test is complete and the waiting period is complete, the fact that that person did their screening test will be recorded into a database. And that database is being built by our incredible comm warriors at the comm squadron. And it will be visible and available and updated in virtually real time to UCCs and other commanders and folks or owners of buildings that have a need to know or need to look up somebody that arrives. So that database will be populated and filled in with a yes, they tested. The results of that test will not be posted on that database. And then the individual person will receive, we talked about this a little bit, and sometimes simple is better. They're going to get a stamp card, which is something about the size of your COVID vaccination card. So you carry one or carry the other, or I guess some people could carry both if they wanted to. But on that card, it'll have an ability for them to stamp it with a proprietary stamp to the SPSTF, which is a really cool stamp. I'm excited about that stamp. When we don't need it anymore, I want one of those. They'll stamp it and have a date next to it indicating that was the date that person screened, and then they'll have a physical proof on them. And so you can show the card with a stamp on it, or you can give someone your ID, and the folks in that building can look you up on the database to see when you screened, when you did your screening test. So that's a long setup to finally answer the person's question. The question is, will there be somebody required to post at the door to screen everyone as they come in? And everybody's going to love this answer, right? Because it's the quintessential operational aircrew answer. It depends, right? Holy cow, what does he mean? It depends on what the HPCon level is. So at HPCon 0, no, there's no requirement for there to be door guards posted. At HPCon Alpha, there is no requirement for there to be door guards posted. At HPCon Bravo, which is where we are right now, no requirement for door guards posted. However, if we go to HPCon Charlie, then we will have to have some way to check or screen, if you will, the folks entering facilities, and also the same would apply at HPCon Delta. The details on what are you going to have to do between Delta, Charlie, Bravo, Alpha, and HPCon 0 is specified in the installation command directive. I think it's 22, ICD 22. Ask your unit control center, your group control center, your unit commander or director. They'll be able to get you the exact language. But effectively what we've done is we've modeled the level of screening required as you have increased HPCon, similar to what we would do at increased threat cons or force protection condition levels in a same escalatory manner. And so that's threat dependent or environment dependent. So in all cases, the people that are attending meetings or setting up meetings are required to make sure that everybody knows that's a requirement, and then to track as the meeting organizer as appropriate. But the difference between Charlie and Delta is that while we still have at HPCon Charlie and HPCon Delta, there will be a single point of entry requirement and checking people just like you would on an EAL at an elevated FPCon Charlie or Delta. At Delta, HPCon Delta, they'll also record the people that entered in what time to facilitate contact tracing. So at Charlie, we're just going to make people show that they've got it, either vaccination or the screening test complete at Charlie. At Delta, you'll have to show one or the other, but we'll also record by name when you entered and when you left, so that there's automatic, at least building level or facility level contact tracing. At Bravo, HPCon Bravo, there's a mandatory minimum required random checks of people that are in the building and in the facility for their vaccination card or their screening card. And that's what we're doing at Bravo. At Alpha, none of that is required, but there's still an obligation for the meeting organizer to ensure that we comply with the 50-person limit, and that everybody there is either fully vaccinated or has attested that they are screened in the past appropriate 72 hours or 1 week. Relatively long answer to the short question. If I didn't answer it or you have a follow-on, please ask. While you're thinking about or maybe typing it in, one of the things I do want to foot stomp right now is that there are two types of COVID tests, or two levels of COVID testing. The screening tests that we're doing are non-medical. They're over the counter. We are only permitted to receive those through Defense Logistics Agency channels. And as you can imagine, there's a huge spike in demand for these across the DoD while we're all standing up these screening capabilities across the installation. So our supplies right now, not yet here. I'm kind of hoping the elves are throwing them in the sleigh for us in the big man's felt red pouch with white trim. And we have them by Christmas, but I'm not going to hold my breath on that because I know that sleigh is already really darn full, and they may not make it by Christmas. So when DLA or Santa, or I guess both, can get those screening kits to us and their antigen tests that we're using for screening, over-the-counter antigen tests, self-administered, non-medical grade COVID tests, we'll then, as we get them, and our OIC for that facility says, yes, sir, I've got the supplies and we're ready to go, we're going to hack a clock. 4 duty days later is the first day that we'll have the capability up and running to do screening, and it'll be mandatory for anyone that is not fully vaccinated, that is attending either work or attending an official meeting. So there'll be a when they arrive, we'll let everybody know, and there'll be a 4-day implementation period there. So that's, when is that going to be? Well, if you believe that they arrive for Christmas, that would be the first duty day would be Monday the 27th of December, and the 4th duty day after that would be the 30th, which would be 1 day before we go into another 4-day weekend. And then we'd ramp up, we'd then pick up in the full recurring manner on the 4th of January. If they don't arrive until, the 28th or the 29th, then it would be after the new year. But we are not going to be able to execute that screening until we actually have the physical supplies, just like any other operation is. If you don't have the materials, you can't do the work. So that's where we sit right now. And I hope that answers all the questions about screening testing that I can answer, but if there's more, happy to have it. Now let me pivot to the other kind of testing real fast. If you need a diagnostic test, like you think you have COVID or your screening test says it was detected, you need to go do a PCR test, which is a diagnostic test done by medical professionals, medical lab grade equipment, medical lab grade results, and that will be the official diagnostic. Yes, in fact, you have COVID. Or maybe the screening popped and you go get a diagnostic and it says not detected. Well, then this test rules. That will still be available to those that are eligible for it at the med group under their testing hours, which I believe are 7:30 to 11:30 on duty days up at the med group. So don't confuse the two. If you get a test up at the med group, you can present those test results to the screening test facility, and they will consider that valid. But the other way around is not the case. Okay, that's exhausted my knowledge on that topic. But thanks for asking it, and I appreciate you being the straight person.
We have a couple more.
Absolutely.
Can we add vaccination credentials to the Common Access Card or CAC?
So the answer is, can we? Is it possible? I think the answer is yes. It is absolutely possible we could do that. One of the things we talked about, I loved. So by the way, our leadership team, which is right now a tech sergeant and a first lieutenant, they're the leadership team for the screening testing facility. They're amazing individuals, and they're going to lead a phenomenal team there. While they were trying to iron out and iterate through what are their process and procedures and SOPs going to be, we talked about, hey, is there a way that we could get something like like the guards use at they flip your card over and go ding, and then they look at a screen, right? Well, we have a defender in the CAG, and Ty was like, yeah, I mean, I guess that's entirely possible, but it would require DBIDs to have that information readily available in the databases to talk to each other. I think that is all in the realm of possible, but right now connecting your medical status to DBIDs and letting a bunch of defenders see your medical status, I think that's going to require some policy changes in addition to some technological updates. Of the two, history teaches that the technological changes are easier than the policy ones, but the answer is I do think it's entirely possible. The reality of it is that a lot of people that attend stuff on the base don't have a CAT card, and many of them may not even be in DBIDs. So there will still need to be some type of alternate process or alternate method available. But I do like the thought. I think there's a lot of value add there in the future. And if you are an innovator and you know a way that you can make databases talk and you're interested in running on that as an innovation topic, man, that would be huge. In the as we develop this COVID endemic new normal, and I would love nothing more than for us to figure that out here, beta test it, and then release it to the rest of the Air Force and the rest of the DoD, like we do all kinds of other capabilities that we flesh out, and mature here at the Center of the Aerospace Testing Universe. So I think that answers your question, but if not, I'll certainly try to get more details to you or to everybody. Thanks for the ask.
Next question. Do off-base visitors still need a letter to be signed on to base?
Yeah, and so the answer is, again, it depends. And that answer in policy lies in the comprehensive COVID directive, the COVID comprehensive directive. I can't remember the words there. The most current version of that also always hangs at edwards.af.mil/coronavirus. And that directive there, I think the last version I signed out, the date may look a little old in pandemic times, but it is still 100% valid. And on the last page, which I think is a 2-pager now, on the back side of that, there's a matrix. And that matrix says at HPCon levels, where are visitors allowed here, and then at what level of sign-off are those visitors required. And if you look at that matrix, you'll see that we are at HPCon Bravo, that visitors are allowed on, but the approval level is not at the escorting person's, you can't just escort a visitor on the base with your CAT card. You need to have a higher level approval required. And I can't remember the exact phraseology in that matrix on the back of that document, but it will include squadron commander, director, and probably some other leadership there as well. But we can go look that up and get you an answer if you can't find it at edwards.af.mil/coronavirus, and then the comprehensive directive. Team in the broadcast booth, if you could find that on our website, we can flash the coronavirus page up and then show them where the document exists. You don't have to do that immediately, but at some point before we end, I can show folks where that still hangs. There's another important thing that I want to show on that page as well, which we'll get to here in a second. If I didn't answer your question, let me know. We'll get back to you. Chief, any others rung in?
Yes, there's another question, sir. It says, I heard the CDC was going to start closing rooms because of lack of staffing. Will this impact children who are currently receiving care?
Yeah, so I'm gonna plead ignorance on that specifically because I haven't been spent time with MSG in the last few days. If you have phone a friend help that would, if you know that, Chief, I'll let you take that. If not, we'll have to take that for an action and get back to you. I believe MSG is typically somebody listening in. Do you happen to know?
I don't know, and hopefully they are listening in, and will get back with us on that one. I did get a phone a friend regarding the visit requests.
Okay.
First sergeants can also sign the visit requests. So
Good.
that's a
good.
helpful note for that one.
Yep, it is, and we'll call that up for everybody here as well. So back to CDC. As anyone that has a child enrolled in CDC, and certainly for any of you that have worked or are working or have friends or family that work at CDC, you know that that's a large group of incredible airmen that provide a very vital service to all of us, caring for our kids. You know, I think you can still enroll as young as 6 weeks, although that's a little bit older now. Typically, it's for first enrollment because of the new maternity rules, but their typical limitation is the number of staff members. And so as the staff members decline, sometimes they have to close rooms because they have very specific and solid basis for those numbers of a ratio between the staff and the children in each classroom. So as the staff numbers shrink, the rooms available will also close. You should receive very specific messaging as a parent or as a guardian of a child enrolled in the CDC on what the status is for your classroom or for the classrooms that are of the same age group as your child. If MSG's on and can give you that, that's great. So maybe there was a phone a friend. All right.
Yeah, it looks like they chimed in and they said, we are not aware or have not been told about anyone losing care at the CDC. We continue to recruit, hire, and train staff. So it sounds like it's more of a rumor than
yeah, I mean,
evidenced.
the reality is that we have required staff to student ratios, to enrolled ratios. And if the staff numbers go down, people PCS, people get promoted, people decide that they want to care for their own kids at home, or 10 other reasons. If we don't have the staff, then we literally can't enroll the folks. But I was not aware of that. If you have any more detailed information, contact the CDC direct. The CDC leadership there would be happy to answer that or kill rumors, convert them into reality, or tell them they're not true. And then the FSS leadership would be also a great place to go. Let me do a call out right now to someone that is dual hatting in the Force Support Squadron right now. Captain Liz Moyer is still the deputy director. She's a active duty captain. She's the FSS Squadron deputy director. And while we were in the process of hiring a PK Paul Keenan replacement as the squadron director, she has the privilege, honor, responsibility, I don't know, of wearing both hats as the deputy director and the squadron director, or I guess in her case it would be the squadron commander. So Liz, thank you for selflessly doing two jobs. I bet Chief has had a couple scenarios where she's had more than one role to play in her career. I have done that more than once, and we are greatly appreciative to you for doing that for your entire Force Support team. But I'll tell you, that is very common in the selfless attitude and selfless service that we get out of the entire FSS. So thanks, Liz, and we're glad you're there, and I know the FSS is very happy to have you as their interim leader, interim commander. All right, with that, PA has told me that they're ready to pop to the website. So this is a screenshot of the, look at that.
There's that angry image.
She's going to pay you guys enough money one of these weeks to give you a different screen capture
Can we
there.
refresh that next quarter?
No. So it's the mask. I'm sure there's a smile underneath the mask, Chief.
Sure.
So go back to the top of the page for us, folks. So you can't quite read it in the URL there, or at least I can't, but this is www.edwards.af.mil, and if you go to the edwards.af.mil splash page, you click on coronavirus, it takes you to this. If you just go /coronavirus, you end up on this page. There you go. There's the Edwards homepage. You click the COVID-19 link, so go ahead. That takes you to the COVID, Edwards COVID page, and then on this page, if you scroll down, you'll see on the right side there, it talks about HPCon Bravo, and then scroll down to about the middle of the page, and it shows you, it has a link, hyperlink to the comprehensive directive. So go ahead and scroll down. There it is on the left, about half, maybe a little bit more. And that COVID directive there should be a 2-pager, if I recall. There it is, and it's that matrix that we were talking about earlier today. So at HPCon Bravo, visitors are allowed, and there's a note, and the note talks about who can authorize that visitor. So, and that's available to you on any device if you have a question. So that's where you get it. Can you go back to the COVID page real fast? This, it may look like a relatively static page. It's not. We are constantly updating what's here. The good news is that the underlying information is starting to stabilize, and I think that's a good thing. For example, I love that right there on the screen that you're on. That's the SMARTS card. And if you can't remember what SMART stands for, you can go to the page and print it out or look it up. But SMART are the non-pharmaceutical interventions that are shown to reduce the spread of our enemy in the coronavirus fight. So, make sure you maintain spacing from somebody. There's a minimum spacing there that we've all been talking about for a while, but a little bit more is a little better in all cases. Mask up. There is a legitimate argument to be made that the masks that Chief and I are wearing right now don't stop COVID. And I'm like, well, okay, while that's technically true, they do reduce the number of potential viral particles that if one of us was contagious right now, we would be transmitting, and that's an important thing. They also have been shown to reduce the risk to the person wearing the mask, not just the person exhaling through it, but the person inhaling through it as well. Airflow, huge, right? We have been so blessed with this at Edwards. Low humidity helps and airflow helps, and we got plenty of low humidity and lots of wind. So anytime you can allow the wind to blow through your building, higher roofs, bigger ventilation, be outdoors, or make the indoors kind of be like the outdoors, that's very helpful there. That hasn't changed. That's still very important. Restrict means keep the number of people that are physically co-located together at the size that you need it to be, but no more. For the majority of the pandemic, we were able to decide that locally on what those groups looked like. DEC, going on 6 weeks, maybe 2 months ago now, said 50 is a threshold that we need to track pretty closely. So if you have more than 50 together for a DoD-sponsored event with 2 exceptions, one is training, and the other are exercises. With those 2 exceptions, the approval level is the Undersecretary of the Air Force. So examples of that 50-person exception to policy that we have requested and received approval for were the Space Test Fundamentals graduation, TPS Patch Night, and TPS graduation, both the graduations that happened last week, but also the ones that are happening this spring and into this summer. An example of one that we requested approval for but was denied were a couple retirements. Now, that does not mean that all retirements will be denied. So if you have one that you think you're going to have more than 50 people at, or you want to have more than 50 people at, ask. I'll endorse it if it makes sense, and then we'll forward it up. And that's probably the biggest tangent from the restricted. So keep it small. Remember that hybrid meetings work really well, and don't hesitate to use all the tools that we have to stay virtual or go hybrid. And if there's a new one that you find that works really well, then by all means, have at it. I've become reasonably proficient at Zoom, very proficient at Teams, and then we're broadcasting to you via a medium that we didn't use one bit prior to the pandemic. So that's another way to make it a little bit hybrid and keep the number of people in one room small.
I think the town hall is another good example of not having the ability to physically do all calls and commanders calls and that sort of thing, and being able to still communicate and doing it on this frequency is important.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's been highly successful. One of the great things about it is that I've noticed that at the last couple years worth of all calls that we had in the before times, when I would say, all right, questions from the audience.
No hands.
It was like crickets, no hands. But at the beginning of the all calls or the commander's calls, we'd have hey, if you have a question, text it into. And so all we've done here, folks, is we've gone from a base theater full of people texting in their questions to potentially thousands of people watching the broadcast texting in their questions. You don't have the travel time there or after, and you don't have to worry about parking either. So you do lose a little bit in the interactions. I can't quite hear the emotion in your questions as Chief and I would have heard if you were in person, but this has been a great example of how we are better because we've had to work through this transition. So back to the smarts page. So that's restricted the size, time. If you don't need to be together for 4 hours, then don't. If you can keep it shorter, you can. So that's smart are things that you can do absent pharmaceutical intervention. And the current only pharmaceutical intervention we have are the shots that we have. So that's the smarts card. And if you don't know what it is, that's how you get to it. So if you scroll, there you go. I think that's about it, other than at the very top. At the very top of this page, across the top, are the slides that were presented most recently at the Edwards Air Force Base and Air Force Plant 42 COVID update. And these are the actual charts stripped of the controlled and classified information, which we can't let hang on a publicly available website. But everything else is there, and it's usually a very meaty and a very robust set of charts. And I think there's awesome information in here. So don't hesitate to go and look there. Our current battle rhythm is about once a month that we have this meeting. And the most current charts are there immediately after the meeting ends. So place to get to it and push it on to your family, your friends, and your coworkers, please. All right, with that said, Chief, anybody else rung in with a question or a comment?
I did get one. It says, can you clarify the hours for the South Gate after the holiday, please? And I just so happen to have a nice little text from the ad hoc.
Well, there you go.
Regarding the hours for the South Gate holidays hours. It'll be closed from 23 to 26 December, 31 through 3 January of 22. And then it will close at midnight on Thursday the 23rd and reopen at 5 a.m. on Monday the 27th, to be clear. It will then close at midnight on Friday, 31st of December, and reopen at 05 on Tuesday, 4 January. So after the holidays, it will resume back to the hours that were previously posted, which will be 05 to midnight on Monday through Friday, and then 05 to 9 p.m. or 2100 Saturday through Sunday. So I hope that was clear.
Yeah, and Chief, you got
a lot of numbers rolling
it
around.
is. So Chief, you got that off an ad hoc message. So Southgate 2 weeks ago, I think, Southgate went from what was effectively a 24/5 operation to reduced hours that were the hours that we had, I'll say pre-pandemic, and I don't think it was just before the pandemic, but it was a little while ago. The balance that the team is making there is that we still have an increased demand on our defenders in the number of deployments and bodies that we have to provide to the in the one of our combat fronts. So make ready airmen that deploy today to fight tonight. So they're reduced in number, and the fourth mission area that we have, and that is fight tomorrow's fight, or prepare for tomorrow's fight, or the modernization fight. And there's a trade between those two, right? We can work defenders on overtime shifts and super long hours and keep them on 12 plus 7 days a week, and then we minimize the gate impact to the folks that are generating our local mission, or we can give the defenders in a reduced manning environment better lifestyle, but shift that burden or that load to some of the folks that have, frankly, very early or very, very late drive times. The right balance between these two folks is never easy, and it requires a lot of information. It requires a lot of information to decision makers. So if you are affected, either as the person that guards the installation via the Southgate, or you're on those teams, or you're affected because you're a person that uses Southgate, because it saves you, and this is not an unrealistic number, because it saves you 30 to 45 minutes of drive time one way, you need to let your command team know when you would need the gate open no later than, or open no earlier than, and then we'll collectively feed that information into the squadron levels that make those decisions. And if the squadrons can't figure it out, then the group commanders and directors are empowered to arrive at a good balance. I will tell you that when we changed from the approximately 24/5 to something that was much more, not much, but somewhat more restrictive, it had a non-trivial impact to the folks. Now, they're small numbers, but when you look at what they do, there's significant outsized impact. The folks that were the ones that prepped the control rooms and prepared the communication that enabled our early morning launches or our late night flying from the test perspective. And so the balance between those folks' commute time and the risk of their commute with the ability to keep rested, healthy, and regenerated defenders on the gate was something that the MSG and the OG and the test engineering group worked through and are still in the process of hammering out precisely.
Yes, sir. I know that there's discussions on, making sure that we can accommodate everyone. So I know Colonel Harris and the crew are working with
Absolutely.
with the security forces team to make sure that we adjust as much as we need to and then get that situated. So
Yeah, it is not my intent that we ask a significant number of airmen being airmen and guardians, active duty, civilians or contractors, to add significant drive time or significant drive distance to their routine henceforth and forevermore. Another item that is being conveniently showed here by my super awesome PA team is that this is a screen from the app, and right. So if you have the Edwards.af.mil, if you have the Edwards app, which has a new icon to it, an updated, refreshed icon, you can get to it and see the updates there. And these are push updates. If you, by the way, as long as you're on the app, if there's a push update, there's the one for the Southgate hours right there. If there's something you'd like to see in the app that it doesn't currently do, or it can be formatted in a different way, there's an ability for you to provide that input direct to the app master himself. So
I love the term.
Yeah, the app master. Yep. So it's one app to rule them all, and he's the one that rules the app, right? So what does that make him? Well, it's like that's like more power than I have, right there. But there's the screen that allows you to inject. Hey, I didn't like this. Here's how it could be better. Here's a capability I'd like to see. I'll tell you, kudos to the organization that Mac has worked with. That they are actually developing out or building out new modules on the app because we are demanding it of them and we're being a good partner with them. So it's a tremendous platform partnership and capability that we are benefactors of here. And Mac has really matured that relationship. So don't think it's too much of an ask if there's something you'd like to use. Now, full candor. If we don't all use it, it won't be good, or it won't be as good as it could be. If you want to use a competing social media thing, let's see, FACEBOOK. So the 8-letter word that starts with F, which I'm not going to say. Yeah, exactly. The PA team saying, no, don't say that. If you want to use that, I'm not going to tell you can't, but the official Air Force, Edwards Air Force Base information is going to flow to the Edwards app. And to the extent that we can, our official presence on that other platform will link back to places that are on the app as well. And the number of links should grow over time. That should be from the PA team, from the FSS team, and from a lot of other folks to get everybody on the same platform. And the value there or the benefits there are tremendous. So if you look scroll back up, yeah, in the top left corner, that's what the new icon looks like to differentiate it from the legacy one, which is now timed out. It's the tower with a super fast, super cool airplane floating around it, leaving some kind of a contrail. So that's what it is. It is a free app. I encourage you to download it, use it, be a demanding customer, tell us what you'd like it to do and what you'd like it to see. Mac, when you have it, just flip back to it. I would like to show another example on the map. If you can find a red dot that shows hours, and if the single point screening test facility is already updated, great. If not, you could show something like the commissary is another good one on the map, and the kind of pop-up information that would be there. And I think that's a really good information. I think he knows what I'm asking for. So on the map function, which you can get to on the bottom of the screen, there's the middle icon there. You hit map, you scroll around, you see a location, you highlight over that, and then it goes to, there you go. There's a red dot. Oh, we don't need to see Alaska, although Canada's nice this time of year. It's a PIO, GUI interface problem. So any one of those red dots has more information behind it. So you can highlight that red dot. It pops up information on that facility. If you notice something there, first of all, if there's a red dot, if you want to see a red dot over a facility that isn't there, then let us know. If the information behind that red dot isn't accurate with what is actually posted on the building, or if you're the owner of that facility or capability, let us know. And there's a way that we don't have to manually update these. They will automatically pull information from online available sources as well, and they'll update multiple times an hour. So they should be certainly very high fidelity. But that type of capability will not mature and will not become usable or not become as valuable if we don't all use it and contribute to it as a community. So again, I remain super excited about that. And I've already mentioned that as the SPSTF, Single Point Screening Test Facility, stands up, that'll be a red dot over the base theater with the updates there on their hours and status. All right, beautiful tangent. I love it. And I still love the fire behind us. Although, flash to the outside again. I want to look at the snow. Well, I'll pretend that we're out in the snow and you can hear it. Oh, I love it. I love it. And you know what I love about snowfall? I love the way it muffles sound. And you hear the little crunch, crunch, crunch under your feet. And then you get whacked with the snowball when you're the little kid on the playground. But that's another story. Okay.
I got one, sir.
All right, Chief. We'll take the next one.
It says, where can I find the AFMC approved family days for 2022?
That is a fantastic question.
I know a good place for it.
Yeah, we can certainly hang that in a PA push or on the app as well. The bottom line, the summary is that if there's a holiday in 2022, there's a 4-day weekend associated with that, compliments of General Bunch. I'll say that's a great thing if for your planning purposes for long weekends. It does put some interesting pressure on our mission schedules for places like Test Professional School and other capabilities, but those are good problems to have that I'm very happy to work.
Yes,
so if you want to know about, like for example, I think if I count to 12, we'll get it right there. But if it doesn't hang right now, we'll make sure that it hangs on the app, and if not, we'll get it to you. So leave your information. But so President's Day is a 4-day weekend with the Friday as the family day. Sorry, MLK is a 4-day weekend with the Friday as a family day. President's Day is a 4-day weekend with the Friday as a family day. Memorial Day, 4th of July, Labor Day, Columbus Day, Veterans Day. Oh, I forgot Juneteenth.
Mm-hmm.
Juneteenth is there. Veterans Day, and then Christmas and New Year's and Thanksgiving. I think that's all 12. And they're not all Fridays that are the family days, mostly Fridays, but they're all 4-day family day weekends, which is great for planning purposes.
Absolutely.
So thanks for that ask. All right, Chief, if there's one more, we'll take it. If not, we're like right at the hour mark, and we'll wrap it up for the year.
I think that's it.
No mas. All right. So, Chief, so it hasn't been a full year in the seat for you, but you got a reasonable amount of miles on the car in the seat. What's been your most memorable moment? I'll give you one on each end. Like, oh man, I never want to do that again, or that was unfortunate, to a highlight of the last 6 months, 2021 at Edwards for you and your team.
Well, if I had to find something to complain about, which I hate to do, but when I first arrived, something I don't want to do again was discover the hard way that the shopette wasn't open, and I was starving, and my kids needed something to eat when we first got here. That's the one moment that I can point to as, don't want to experience that again. Some of the good moments have been connecting, and every time I say connect now, I think of Colonel Lamoth, so shout out to Med Group, but I think of Colonel Lamoth and I think of AFMC Connect, so General Bunch and his team, because that's so important. But connecting with the chiefs, with the first sergeants, and then with you in the top 5, the front office, and then also the airmen behind the scenes making everything happen. That has been really good, especially when you find the airman who has done a BOP back to Edwards because they love the test mission. That right there, when I shared that with you that day, that was like, wow, I need this person to follow me everywhere I go and just be like one of the cheerleaders for what we do here. Because a lot of airmen don't necessarily have that connection. And so one of my goals is to make sure that, every airman feels that way and every airman understands how important test is. And so I know that can almost sound a little cheesy, corny, but that's what I'll go with since,
No, it's good. And I'll tell you, so if you were to say, all right, so what are the ones back to you? I don't even.
Absolutely.
So I will tell you. I don't know if I've shared this with you, Chief, but everybody asked me, hey, what sports did you play in high school? and I proudly sit up tall and I say, I was a mathlete.
Nice.
And everybody laughs and says, that's not a sport. And I'm like, you weren't on my math team.
Right?
And I got trophies to prove it. Basically, with what I say there, though, is that when you put me on a baseball diamond, I'm a swing and a miss fastballs all day. And I just realized my limitations there. Occasionally, I'll be able to hit a softball on the diamond. But that doesn't mean I don't like the games and don't understand them. So the analogy there to this year for my I won't say my low points, but man, those are disappointing, right? I wish we could have connected with those balls, but there were some misses that we had, and it wasn't for lack of effort or research or messaging. It was just, the higher headquarters powers that be decided that, AIP is not going to be for you.
Sure.
So that was one that I do the. We've already asked the Conus Cola one. Out of cycle BAH, another one that, man, I wish I could have hit that softball, right? But boy, we sure swung at it. And those in and of themselves, they all matter. But none of those were, a fait accompli or a coup de grace. I mean, none of those were deadly to the mission. Those were just opportunities for us to make what was a really good place a better place. When I flip to the opposite side and I look at, boy, what are the highlights of 2021? Man, I don't even know where to start. And we're not trying to make this into a best hits video of 2021. But folks, if you think back to where we were a year ago, we kind of had a vaccine. The pandemic was in like second or third reverberations, and we were literally hunkered down. We hadn't traveled in a long time. Yeah. Everything was very, very, very scary for many folks. And there was a lot of risk that we were absorbing at a personal level to make sure that we could still execute our mission. We had returned to full capacity, returned towards full capacity by that point, but we weren't firing on all cylinders and really back up to 95 to 100% of pre-pandemic capacity till January, February. But a year ago, that's where we were, and here we sit today. Yes, we're still in Bravo. Yes, we've gone through a Delta wave, and we're probably about to see an Omicron wave, but we're at a very different position, both of knowledge and the tools that are available to us, so that we don't have to retrench. I expect that we won't have to retrench like we did spring, summer of 20, and as we went into a defensive crouch in the fall and into the holidays of 2020 as well. That's a really good thing, and a good thing to be able to sit here and know that you continue to certainly lead the Air Force, but you also lead the region. For overwhelming majority of the pandemic, Edwards has been a green dot and a sea red. And while it's evened out a little bit here, we are absolutely still leading the local area in our case rates and our COVID mitigation compliance and all those other things. That has allowed us to do great things this year. We've deployed all kinds of UTCs downrange and gotten them back safely. It allows us to have cyber defenders on the front line. And, oh, by the way, our cyber chops have gotten tremendously better. I mean, we're doing this. I'm participating in virtual meetings. I'm driving around base to get from meeting to meeting a lot less. I was out of the local area for 3 days this week and still able to participate in some very important and worthwhile uses of my time. And that just wouldn't have happened in 2020 or earlier. And so that's a bonus, but that's the cyber fight. And we got good folks working in that range. I talked a lot about the pandemic fight, and then we talked a little bit about the test mission that we've executed. And the firsts that we've done this year are yet another year of awesome firsts, with 2022 being that many more. And so I'm excited about all that. I'm very proud of what you have accomplished, what we have accomplished, but primarily you, with the Chief and I as two of your biggest cheerleaders. Mm-hmm. And if that bothers you, Chief, to be described as a cheerleader, that's fine. I'll take it all. I'll take your pom-poms too, right? I'm a huge fan of yours. Yeah, I'm a huge fan of yours. I'm a huge fan of what you do. I provide stuff so that you can get stuff done. This forum is an example where you can feedback what's working, what's not. What do you need a little bit more? What do you need a little bit more freedom? And where I can get it to you, either the resources or the flexibility, we will absolutely deliver so that you can continue to deliver for the nation, for the warfighters, and for the community. So with that as a big way of saying thanks, I appreciate your time, your attention, your perseverance, and I really appreciate what you're going to do next year. Because as great as our performance was in 2021, I'm really excited about what we're going to do in 2022. So we're going to sign off for the calendar year. from the broadcast here in the PA studios at Edwards Air Force Base. So long for now from Takata 2.